is the best hair removal technique? Razoring, threading, waxing, or tweezing? Before I answer that, I will say that the best method and the best way to remove hair off your body or your brows or anywhere on your entire body is going to be to remove the hair from the follicle. That way your hair has an entire cycle. It can grow from the root through the follicle and off to the surface of the skin, which takes about 3 to 4 weeks. As to hair removal, we want to keep the hair off as long as possible. That's going to allow you to experience that 3 to 4 weeks of hair growth and so that the hair doesn't come back so much faster. Okay, so whenever I hear people talk about razoring, I hear two things. I hear that my hair grows back super thick and that it grows back super fast. Well, let me debunk that. That's really not necessarily true. Yes, it's growing back faster. It's coming back to the surface of the skin faster, not necessarily growing back faster. When you're razoring, the only thing you're doing is removing the hair from the surface of the skin. That does two negative things. It makes that very fine point of the hair. If you ever see a hair follicle, you see that the hair comes to a very fine point. That's what we want. We want the hair to come out very, very thin, needle point, so that we don't see it. It's not as noticeable as it's growing back. But when you razor, you cut that off and you leave a blunt tip. That's the first thing, and that looks very thick, looks much thicker because now the diameter that we're seeing of that follicle, of that hair, is much larger than it would have been if it would have just been left untouched. Okay, so that's why it looks thicker. Now it looks like it's growing back faster because it's not growing from the root, it's growing from right at the skin. So when you shave in 2 or 3 days, you're gonna see that hair coming back. So that means that razor is kind of out the door. We don't want to razor, especially in our brows. We don't want stubble coming back in our brow area. Okay, so as far as threading, waxing, and tweezing, those 3 methods actually do remove the hair from the follicle, so that's good. Now let's talk about threading. Threading does exactly what it says. It uses a thread and it winds up the hair as you glide it across the skin, and it removes all the hair in its path. Okay, it's like a bulldozer, but in the worst way because it's very painful and it removes so much hair at one time and so quickly. Sometimes with threading, it's almost uncontrollable. You can't really control that thread the way you want to. And the second thing is that it threads and removes hair in a straight line. That might be fine for some areas of the brows, but other areas of the brows, we don't want fine lines. We don't want straight lines. We need curves. We need some angles. We want some softer areas. And with threading, it takes all that off and you end up with flatter and very sharp brows. Okay, and as much as people think that they want that, trust me, when you see it on your face, it's not always flattering. So I like to omit threading because it's just, we don't want straight lines and we don't want to take off a lot of hairs at one time when we're shaping the brows. We want to be very strategic about which hairs we remove. Okay, so the last 2 options are my favorite because I do waxing and tweezing right here at Inga Bailey Brows. With waxing, I love waxing because you can manipulate the wax, place it exactly where you want to. If you want to make a curved area, you can curve that wax to remove hairs to make it look that way. If you want to make a straight line, you can do that. So you can really, really customize the shape of what you're trying to do with waxing very easily. So we love wax, okay? And the wax that I use is not adhered to the skin, it just adheres to the hair and it removes the hair from the follicle. Tweezing, we love tweezing as well. Tweezing is a great alternative for people who may not be able to wax because they may be on medications or the skin is ultra sensitive. So tweezing, of course, removes hair from 1 to a few hairs at a time. And of course, very detailed. You can get those little tiny hairs and really make that brow look perfect. So waxing and tweezing are definitely going to be our go-to when removing hair from the follicle. Okay, so if you're unsure about which one works best for you, should you wax, should you tweeze, then always be sure to book an appointment, book a brow consultation. That's absolutely complimentary. Come in, let's talk about that. That way we can get your brows to be their best brows, okay? Now, if you have any other brow questions, make sure you leave them down below underneath this video, and I might feature them in an upcoming video. Other than that, make sure you have a great brow day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.